But this is a segment we call the Stoney Story. And this is where you kind of give us, this is your opportunity to take the stage and tell us a brief background on who you are and what you do. And then we kind of dive in from there.
All right.
So,
do you want me to go?
who are you?
Yeah. I'm Frank Michael Smith. Only reason you'd hear people call me Frank Michael Smith is if they don't know me. If you know me, you would never use my middle name. But when you have a name like Frank Smith, you got to differentiate a little bit. So online, Frank Michael Smith. Entrepreneur, really. Like, I know everyone sees the content and the videos I put out, mostly short ones, but, you know, it's kind of cliche at this point, like, oh, being a content creator is running a business. It really is. Like, we have so much more going on than just the videos. So I really just think I'm an entrepreneur. I'm from Pittsburgh, PA, and I love sports and I love making art.
Art for the internet. And you're right there with the social content realm is like, I think people think that it's just, oh, you post and that's it. But the thought that goes into it and the strategy and all the business sense you have to learn and figure out is really what separates you. And that's how you can ultimately be able to monetize it to the point that you're able to.
Well, yeah, that's how you create longevity. You have to have the business sense. And, you know, we talked a little bit before I took my headphones off going out to LA. That was a lot of that was I was behind everything. I was never forward facing when I worked out in LA for a sports media company. But I did learn the business side of everything, you know. Like I said, COVID got weird. I eventually left, but it was a necessary move. I had to go out there for those 4 years.
What sparked the move initially to LA?
It was a job offer.
Okay.
It was a job. So I graduated Miami, Ohio, and a lot of my friends had jobs already. I graduated one semester late, so it was in the winter. That sucked. It was like, oh, my friends have jobs. Like, I wanted to have a job. So I was an interactive media major, and, you know, I was interviewing, and some of the interviews were like loan support analyst. It was like, oh man, I hope I don't have to actually do this job. So when I got a job that actually fit, I didn't care where it was. Like, I never had a dream of going to LA, but I was like, you know, LA is a cool city. This is a job I think I'd be good at. Let's do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's such a valid point too. Whenever you get out of college, I mean, title wise, and like if you're interviewing around, you don't know what to do. Like, and you're like, I got to take whatever first comes served. And I think a lot of times people just need to pump the brakes.
True, and there's so much comparison too, like you said too. You see your friends getting these gigs and they're getting new cars and stuff, and you're like, man, I wish that was me. And then it's like you kind of force their hand a little bit at times. So this timeline, when you're out in LA, what 4 years was that? Like 2016, 20?
Went out there August of 2017, came back in October 2021.
Okay.
Nice.
So when you were out there, COVID hit, and that's when you started doing some of the short form stuff?
Yeah, I started making these short videos. TikTok was super popular at the time. There's a few accounts that were really crushing it, and I was like, wow, they have millions of followers. Like, there's clearly people on this platform. It's not just dancing. It's not just lip syncing. So I understood it better than most at the time. And no one was really doing storytelling. So I was like, you know, there's some of these videos on YouTube now, like guys like Jimmy High Roller, Mike Korzamba. I didn't watch a lot of Mike Korzamba, but a lot of people caught me to him early. I was like, these videos are good, but they're really slow, and there's a lot of fat layered on them. If you ever posted a YouTube video, you know you want to hit that 8-minute mark, so you get that mid-roll ad. I think a lot of it was because of that, and I was like, man, I think I could tell stories like this in 1 minute, so let's just try it. And I already knew how to make videos, and I had all the equipment, so it was just a matter of doing my day job and doing this on the side, and I've never done something where it took off so quick. It was crazy.
Right.
TikTok was a monster.
Have you always kind of had this knowledge of sports and athletes and stuff like growing up, or is this kind of something you acquired later on?
No, so I'll be a little bit more long-winded here, but my family is like deeply entrenched in sports. It's Pittsburgh sports, really. So my great-grandfather won the 1919 World Series. He actually couldn't lose. It was the fixed World Series, the Black Sox scandal.
Wow.
Yeah, so got a ring there, and he's from Greenfield, and I mean, I assume most of your viewers are from Pittsburgh, so they'll know where Greenfield is. But, yeah, he's from Greenfield, and he became, like, this local guy who everyone knew, you know, played in the majors, and he eventually got involved in boxing, and he met this guy named Billy Kahn, kid from East Liberty. We're filming this in East Liberty right now. He went on to be the light heavyweight champ of the world, and he married my grandfather's sister, so he married my aunt, really. He went on to have one of the most, still, to this day, one of the most classic heavyweight fights of all time versus Joe Louis. Lost in dramatic fashion. He was like cocky Irishman, like had him in the 12th round, like wanted the knockout, like huge underdog, like David versus Goliath underdog. Went for the knockout, even though his corner was begging him, like dance around, win on points, he'd be the heavyweight champ. He's like, nah, I'm gonna knock him out. Left himself vulnerable, gets knocked out. It's this crazy saga. Like Mike Tyson was just quoted the other day saying like, hey, when I have a stressful day, I watch Con Lewis. It's on YouTube, you can watch it. But
wow.
Yeah, 2 Pittsburgh sports icons in my family. Their mutual friend was Art Rooney, the Chief. He actually tried to like get them together because they were at odds. Basically, my great grandfather didn't want his daughter to marry a prize fighter, so they weren't they weren't super pumped.
I guess fair enough, right?
Yeah. But it all worked out. So to answer your question, yes, like my family loves sports. Like that's what I grew up doing. I grew up learning about sports, sports history, watching sports, playing sports, everything really. And then when I had my first video editing software, YouTube was like just coming out. 2008, I think I made my first YouTube video. So I've been at it for a while. I was just curious. I was like, I wonder if I could put a video on here.
Yeah.
Have you ever done a story about your grandfather on Instagram? And that story? Because, dude, that is incredible.
It's one of the best stories. So, yeah. Well,
okay.
I'll put it like this. So, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't. It's hard for me to do my short stories and have it hit the algorithm if it's really old. Like, Wilt Chamberlain has the best stories, but it's hard to find footage and B-roll to kind of piece this stuff together. It almost is more of a tweet now. You're like, oh, Wilt has this stat. It's kind of the same thing with this, but I do have plans for it. So one of the things that came out after this whole classic heavyweight fight was a sports writer named Frank DeFord. He wrote The Boxer and the Blonde. Still, to this day, longest piece ever published in Sports Illustrated. It'll take you like an hour to read.
Wow.
But it's free. If you just type in The Boxer and the Blonde, it's totally worth the read. It's award-winning. It's amazing. He chronicles the entire family history, basically. And, of course, it goes into the Lewis fight, too, and, like the, hey, don't marry my daughter type thing. All of it's in there.
Wow.
I'm trying to make this into an actual feature film now. Like, that's where my leveling up is going to be.
Big.
When I look at content creators right now, basically I look at it like you are the story. Guys like Jake Paul, Logan Paul, like Speed, like a lot of these streamers are like that. Guys who are personalities. Either you are the story or you're a storyteller. I'm the latter. Like, I know I'm not one of these guys going to be pulling stunts out on the street and like that's not me. I know myself.
Right.
But I have an amazing story to tell. Luckily, I was born into this. So that's one of my next moves is, I'm saving it.
All right.
Yeah.
We got a little trailer right
Stay
now.
tuned.
Yeah, you got to listen to the I mean, incredible the pieces that I think you could pull out of that is like the story of boxing, the love story of your grandfather too, and like
Dude,
it can all work in together. And I mean, long form wise, I think you could probably knock that out of the park.
I mean, there's so much there. You're right. There's a ton of depth to it. It's really a romance. It's a love story. The boxing is just like the best B plot ever. But look, like, what was the biggest story in sports this year? What would you say?
Well, I think it could be the Otani story. That's my opinion right now.
Ooh,
but
okay.
I think it's
Interesting.
still developing.
Do you think it's Jake Paul and Mike Tyson? Do you
No,
think that is it?
No,
Okay.
I think the one that drove the most numbers was Taylor Swift dating Travis Kelce.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a sports
Yes.
romance.
It is. It is.
That does numbers, man. It's a proven formula.
Love sports.
Pop
I mean,
culture.
the
Yeah.
numbers from that now that you say that, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
night and day difference. It's crazy what that's been able to do and what it'll continue to do, too.
Especially for the NFL too. I mean, in terms of overall viewership and bringing in a whole entire new fan base that could care less about football, and like you tie those two together, blows up again.
Who would have thought, too?
Yeah.
Like, just kind of was like a completely random storyline that happened this year.
Oh, yeah, I mean, no one saw it coming. I think he was like playing around at first, like was like joking on Instagram, like, oh, like I'm gonna see her at this game or something like that. The fact that it actually worked is crazy, but
It's insane.
their podcast went to #1. Like that's the effect it had.
Yeah.
You guys have a podcast. You know how hard that is to hit #1.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just overnight too. I mean, it's insane. How much do you stay like in tune with the pop culture and everything like that to create these videos and I guess storylines and everything like that?
Well, very. Yeah, that's what I spend every morning doing. That's like the biggest thing you can't teach. You have to understand what's a good story and what's not for your platform. Like, I'm not talking about what would be a good podcast or what would be a good documentary. Like, I'm talking about a 60 to 90 second video. Okay, I have to look at something and say, like, is there enough there? Is there too much there? Is this just right? Okay, can I hook people in with this? Can I actually provide an original opinion that's, woven in here? I'm able to calculate these things really quickly now because I've done it over 1,000 times. But that's like the biggest skill you can have, having like your finger on the pulse.
I think too, like a lot of the clients that I work with and stuff, a lot are very hands off and don't consume a lot of content. And I just don't think in today's day and age of social media, you can be truly successful with it without consuming it.
Good luck to them. I don't know how you do that.
Like there's so many that just mindlessly put stuff out there and have no idea about current trends. I mean, just this past week or two, we've seen the evolution of Sketch and how he's tapped into like every market imaginable, pretty much. His whole, what's up, brother? You know?
Yeah.
And
It's
like
insane.
little things like that like brands can take advantage of, but if you're not consuming it, you're never going to know about it. So that's, how important do you think that is?
This I just said, like, it's the most important skill you can have.
So what's like the workflow like then? If something happens like current event sports wise, how fast are you jumping on it to create a video?
Well, some of it's timing based. Like I do try to set limits. So my editing team, we have a lot of editors. Like this is what I said at the top. Like people think it's just like me like cutting a video up. Like no, we have a whole team. We have 10 video editors, and they don't all work for just my videos. We have like 25 Snapchat Discover shows. They work on those. We work for brands sometimes. We work for other creators just to make their feed content. But they work pretty much 9 to 5 on weekdays only. Like I try to set limits here. So if I can get something and the timing's right with my editing team, we can get something out in like 2-3 hours and it looks really, really good.
What about the video production side? Do you have people as well helping you in terms of setting up the cameras and everything like that?
No,
recording-wise?
I keep it like really simplified. I have a studio in my basement. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to come back to Pittsburgh and buy this house, is I knew I could convert this space into my studio. And look, I had the lights. I just flipped the lights on. I put the blackout shade on. I turned the camera on and like plug my audio interface in. And I'm good to go. I can do it in like a minute and a half.
Yeah, it's all you need.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. And I think simple is better for people too in terms of viewership.
1,000%. 1,000%. You can't make it that hard on yourself, or else you're not going to want to do it.
Right. And you're like, oh, this needs to be perfect in the back. Like we were just like, flick the blue lights on. We're good to go.
Yeah.
Where was your first big video? Whenever you started this whole process as it being a side gig, where you're like, I can do this now.
Like my first video I posted on TikTok did 100,000. So that to me at the time was like, oh my God, I don't even have any followers. That can get 100,000 and I just gained all these followers. Like, all right, I'm gonna do this every day.
First video too. That's insane.
First video, that was the beauty of TikTok, was like it was counterculture. Everything in Instagram at the time was so follower based. Same, of course, definitely with Twitter. They were like, hey, we're gonna just democratize this. The good watch time will win out. And I suppose YouTube was kind of like that, but they weren't doing shorts. So, yeah, man, it was like right away. But the first one I really had pop off, I did this one on Cristiano Ronaldo that got like 10 million views or something. I gained 30,000 followers in a day.
Damn.
The soccer community is insane. That's global stuff right there.
You could also grow much faster at the time. This is 2020, so you could grow a lot faster on TikTok. When you don't have any followers, you just jump on the platform. I'm sorry, you're not following any accounts. You're like, oh yeah, I'm very liberal with my followers now. I'm like, okay, follow that. I like that video. It was just easier.
And then it's tougher now to grow exponentially, I'm sure, for
That's
anybody
every
that
platform.
joins in. Yeah.
Yeah.
How big was YouTube Shorts whenever it first came out for you? Has that been something that you've really focused on now too?
I post it everywhere. So I'll post, if I make a short, let's say it's 1:10, I know that can go on TikTok and Reels. Then I'll make a shorter version for YouTube Shorts and Snap Discover.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not Snap Discover, Spotlight. So it might throw it on Discover too eventually. But yeah, I repurpose everything. Shorts was huge when it first came on the scene. I still have my highest view counts on Shorts. We had one that got like, it might be close to like 30 million. Yeah, it was crazy. I have a couple over like 10 million on there.
Does it excite you still when you get those huge videos? Whenever it blows up for like 10 mil, does it still get the blood flowing for you?
Oh, for sure. When I have one that's like over 10 mil, like, yeah, definitely, definitely. I have one that gets 1 mil. It's harder to get 1 mil now.
Yeah.
It's exciting. But your average one that gets like 300,000, that's a big number. 300,000.
Yeah,
It's
dude,
not
huge.
very exciting.
What about whenever one does that you had high expectations for doesn't perform?
It's a bummer, but you just come back tomorrow, you know? It's like,
At first, was it kind of like a challenge? You're like, damn, like why didn't this work? And you kind of got used to it, or you just kind of always just like, it's whatever.
no, I mean, that's the cool part about this is it's not like, well, I have a whole crew working on this and we've really like dumped a ton of money into this and devoted a bunch of time and all these things you do to have like even a really, really high-end YouTube video. People have crews and stuff working on that. It's not like that. It's like, okay, I filmed this in my home studio and just come back and do another one tomorrow.
There's always
Right.
content out there.
Always
you just
content.
You got to find it. Would you say there's a method, or if there's any way that you would best recommend to blow up, like social media wise?
Yeah, be consistent. You got to get started and be consistent. That's the only way you're going to learn, so...
Yeah.
I made a whole course on this, actually.
That makes sense.
I did a whole course on, it's basically short-form storytelling. So that can be applied to short-form videos. It can also be applied to like an everyday conversation. A story someone tells you at a party could be considered short-form storytelling. Mm-hmm. All the same principles apply. So I made a course on this. Like, I could go on for so long.
I bet.
But the course, honestly, is not that expensive. But yeah, I dove into all the stuff in there.
Nice.
Yeah.
What do you think most young creators get wrong when they're starting out?
What do they get wrong? I think they're not consistent enough. I think some of them will like pick something up and drop it. You're probably gonna have to suck. Like I told you, I started in 2008. But my videos were not good. They were not good. Like my first I made hundreds of these videos. I would look back at them and laugh. So you're gonna have to make stuff that's not great that you'll look back and laugh at later, but you learn through the process. I think a lot of people, this applies more than to just video creation, but people don't stick to things long enough.
Yeah, I think that's a common trait of people I've talked to is the timeline needs to be expanded as far as like social media. It doesn't happen overnight. Yes, you can get momentum kind of like how you had with early TikTok and everything. But you also worked for 10 years before that, perfecting your craft and figuring out what you were good at and what you wanted to talk about. It wasn't just like a boom situation.
Well, yeah, 2008 to 2000, we'll call it before I worked in LA, 2016. I didn't make money, so it was just a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So
you were passionate about it, so
Yeah.
it wasn't something you were doing. I guess that's another big thing that people may get wrong is they do it for the wrong reasons, specifically for virality or for the fame or the money, versus if you're not really passionate about it, people see through that and it doesn't take off.
Yeah, how narcissistic would you have to be to pick something up and be like, I'm just gonna be great at this?
Very,
True. very. And there's probably people out there, that are doing
There's
it out there where it's
100%
like I
people
could
out
I could do that.
I'm just a natural.
Yeah.
Like that's not realistic.
Right. Or I did this all by myself.
He just got lucky.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to work at things.
Take us back to LA real quick. So what was like the turning point where you're like, I'm coming back to Pittsburgh?
My lease was up.
You're like,
My lease was up, and I needed more space. I knew I needed more space. My family, my friends are in Pittsburgh. I I knew almost as soon as I signed the lease that I was probably going to come back. So I just felt it out for those final 12 months. And I worked out this deal with my dad to do this rent-to-own agreement because he wasn't living in this house anyway. So I was like, man, there's no homes in the market. If I can figure out a way to get this one, that would be huge. So everything just fell into place. I didn't love how I was in LA and I couldn't actually meet people face to face. Like that felt wrong. That felt like it defeated the purpose. Why else would you be in LA when the internet exists? And it was weird. I was like, okay, you're, 5 miles away, but we're doing a Zoom. What's the point?
Right. It was a weird time trying to get things accomplished.
People still do that,
yeah.
to be fair. But that's why I wanted to come in, see you guys in person today. I live a 12-minute drive away. Why wouldn't I? But it just felt right. It felt right, and I knew I could run my business, with high-speed internet, so it would all work, and it did.
Yeah. So in honor of 412 Day, what is your favorite thing about Pittsburgh? What do you like the most?
My family, my friends. I think that would be like everyone's answer.
Right.
But I'll go a little deeper. Like, I love how people in the city are not transient. I love how people who live here have ties here. That's something I really noticed in LA, where no one really had like a respect for this city, like, because everyone was from somewhere else. If sports is like the best example for that, to be honest. Like, I never met an LA Chargers fan. I met a couple Rams fans.
Great point.
I met a couple Rams fans because the Rams used to be there. There's real Dodger fans, there's real Laker fans, but there's not a real like passion and excitement, even about college sports too. Like it doesn't really exist there because most people don't care. They're from every other part of the country, and there's not like this thing tying them together where it's like, all right, you're in Pittsburgh. 99% of people you meet are Pittsburghers. There's something that bonds us together. And I think that's why people here are a little bit nicer to each other. They say hi when they're walking down the street. Like, why are we walking down the street in LA? Someone's walking their dog. They don't even flip you they don't even flip you one of these. Like, everyone's in their own little, like, they were doing isolation before COVID.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like it's so true though too, because I feel like Pittsburgh people, we all have like this common thing where we're gritty, like we understand, everybody works hard here or tries to work hard here. I mean, sure, there's different people and everything like that, but there's no pride. There's no like pride, like you said, in LA where it's like tied to a sports team, especially. People take being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan with like the utmost pride. And
also awesome Steeler bars out in LA.
Oh, I
bet. Like better than the Ram bars.
I mean, you look at the Chargers game. Remember the Chargers game at their home stadium, and there was nothing but terrible towels there.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it was overwhelming. I think that happens to most teams that play them, but the Steelers do it best.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I don't mean to like totally dump on LA because I met so many talented and creative people out there. Their food is incredible. Of course, the weather is really, really nice. Like, there's a lot of things I could say that I really like about LA, but it was just time for me to go.
Being back home in Pittsburgh, it's nice.
Yeah, back to the bird. So describe to us the Rhino Gang.
People think I look like a rhino. Like, that's it.
Is that really what it is?
For real?
Yeah,
I don't see it.
I posted a photo with my silver YouTube plaque. I hit 100K. I was like, oh, this is dope. I'm going to post a photo like for all the people to celebrate this with me. Like, they got me there. So posted a photo in my studio in LA, and this one guy commented, and he was like, hey, I mean, no disrespect by this. Like, I love your videos, but in like the nicest way possible. Does anyone else think he looks kind of like a rhino? So I thought it was hilarious. He was like so nice about it, and I immediately was like, I know what a rhino looks like. So I like looked at a rhino and I was like, man, yeah, I still know what a rhino looks like. That's still not me. And I posted a poll. Like, I thought it was funny. Like, I'm able to laugh at myself. I'm not that serious of a person, and I am when I need to be. But like for stuff like this, it's fun. So I posted a screenshot and I pulled it in IG and I was like, is he onto something? 66% of people voted yes. So I just, it was a lot of fun and people enjoyed it. And like most of my followers are younger than me. Like when you're younger, you have a sillier sense of humor. Like I knew that this would strike a chord with them and it was just fun. And I kept it going and the Rhino Gang evolved and I don't know, man. It's goofy. I still don't see it, but other like
That's so funny.
my fiance told me the other day. She was like, "Oh, that photo, you look like a rhino too." I was like, I've had my mom say it to me.
People just taking jabs just 'cause.
No,
It's funny though.
But
It's
they're
funny.
not taking jabs.
No.
They're serious.
I don't see it though, man. I'm gonna be honest.
I don't see it either.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I promise you, I would know if they're joking. Like they say, like, "Oh yeah, I kind of see it." Like
Yeah.
they're my mom.
She's being serious about it.
She's not messing with me.
That's crazy.
So-
Mad respect though for just kind of rolling with it. And
Yeah.
Now you got
Oh, it's
Rhino
fun.
Gang, you know?
Yeah.
It's sweet.
It's fun. We made merch. Like
Right.
it's fun.
That's the way to do it. So what is the? Is it just do people buy like what is the gang? I guess a part. What are you a part of once you join it? I should say that.
You're just like part of the community.
Yeah.
It's not like a
Crack one,
country
too.
club here.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, like you're one of like my my core followers. Core followers, like you engage, you like the stories, you like sports, probably you like my personality. You probably like some of the games I make, like 5-card draw. You probably go watch that movie I talked about earlier.
Yes,
Sir. You're involved.
That's nice. It's nice. Everybody wants to be part of a community. I mean, especially if you can get along with
At the
and
end of
like
the day,
stuff that you like.
It's very human.
Yeah, we're tribal. We're all
Yeah.
tribal. We want to be a part of a community. We all got them cracked now. Cheers,
Cheers.
fellas.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Stoney.
Stoney's beers.
Was getting a little parched, you know?
Yep.
Oh, shit.
Hey, that happens.
Shout out Stonies.
That happens. A little spillage. That's all right.
Oh, that's good.
Brewed
There we go.
locally, Latrobe, PA.
Oh, right in Latrobe. There
Fastest
we go.
growing beer in Western PA.
Yes, sir. Barley hops water. Bada bing.
Simple. So you make the short form videos on all the different platforms. You also do some sports betting stuff, right?
No, it's
No?
I do sports bet, but my partner sleeper is fantasy.
Okay, they're fantasy.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you do the fantasy picks.
Correct.
Stuff like
yeah,
that.
We hit 2 for 2 last night.
Hell yeah.
So how does that work? If you could explain it. I'm like a dumb person here on this. So what is fantasy sports picks?
So fantasy
fantasy.
in like 2013, sometime when I was in college, they realized that the way the rules were written well, I'll back up even further. Remember like Poker Stars used to be a thing?
On TV with ESPN whenever they were like playing?
But you could play like and bet money on the internet, pokerstars.com. Like,
Oh, like online.
so
Okay,
the government
yeah.
realized like this is probably not the best idea. Like we can't just let people like play poker and bet money on the internet. Like we have to write, I think it was called like the Internet Sports Gaming Act or something like that. And one of the things that happened there was this loophole was created. So leagues, specifically like the NFL, knew how good fantasy sports was for their business. Like they understood very early because it had been going on in some form or fashion like since the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it was season long at the point, they didn't want them to include fantasy sports in this act. So I'm pretty sure they lobbied and got it out of there. But what they didn't realize was companies like FanDuel and DraftKings were going to make fantasy sports daily. So when that happened in like 2012, 2013, it was like, okay, you're really exploiting this loophole now. This just feels like betting. And it was tournament style. It was, okay, pick 8 or 9 guys from all the dudes playing tonight, highest score wins, and you win like $1 million. Like that's originally what daily fantasy looked like for most people.
Okay.
And you have to be a real sharp to win that. You got to be using every algorithm and probably a stats major or something like that, right? So the everyday person was never winning that. I mean, maybe rarely, but it's a full-time job at that point if you're playing those tournaments. What happened next was, I think it was Underdog. I can't remember. One of the daily fantasy companies, like Sleeper, Underdog, Prize Picks, like this is kind of this newer batch, figured out that we don't even have to make it 8 or 9 guys. We can just do 2 guys. And as long as you bet on their props, like over points, over rebounds, over strikeouts, as long as you're not betting on like the Pirates to win the game, you're betting on the players to achieve their stats, it's still considered fantasy. So
That's enticing.
Wow.
it's the biggest exploitation of the loophole, and now there's trying to lobby against it. It's all this big legal fight now, but for the moment it exists. Actually, not technically in PA. PA blocks Pick'em. I'm getting very into the weeds now, but
Hey, we're here for it.
but that's which is weird because Pennsylvania is one of the most, like, Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Nevada would probably be the most open gaming states there are, but PA blocks this. It basically feels like betting, but it's not.
Gotcha.
That makes sense. So you pick 2 players. Does it have to be on the
Last
same team?
night I had Evan Mobley under rebounds, Cam
Okay.
Thomas over points.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
And then that was
the only
pick.
rule is they just can't be on the same team.
Okay.
Okay.
They have to be different teams.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that would be your pick. You roll that in, and then essentially, is it like you're placing a bet on FanDuel where you put in $10 to hit on the Evan Mobley points, and then you get the payout there, or do you have to keep winning in this like tournament style?
No, if you
Okay.
put 2 guys in, it's roughly a 3x payout. So if you put $10 in my picks last night, you made $30.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, not
That's
bad.
pretty sweet.
Good little turnaround.
Yeah, not bad.
And all you needed was points and rebounds for them to hit
Yeah,
on.
it's
a lot easier said than
You're
done.
making it sound easy right now. It's not that easy.
I'm making it enticing.
Yeah.
I'm making it enticing for the people out there to follow the picks and follow you. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
That it's crazy too to like really look into it. I think I don't know if it was NBC or somebody did an article or like a press release on it or something. Just the amount of people now that are involved in sports betting, and it is.
I would say sports
crazy.
betting and or fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you guys have this in your notes, but I have my own thing. I have 5-card draw.
Yeah.
It's actually neither.
So that doesn't fit either category. Explain.
It's neither because you don't put up any money. So I realized a lot of my followers are like 13 to 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
To do daily fantasy or fantasy like I was just talking about, you have to be 18. Betting, you have to be 21. So I can see my demographics. I know a lot of my audience is in that 13 to 17 range, and they have no options. So I created this game where we give away a sneaker every night. And they're nice sneakers. We did like the foam runners, like the Easy Slides, Jordan 1s. We have like the Anthony Edwards shoe. The one
Fire.
Yeah, they're nice
sweet.
shoes. They're
Yeah.
between like $100 and $200. We just give one away to the winner every night, and you don't have to put up any money to enter. All you got to do is go in and play before it locks at like 7 p.m. Weekends, it's a little different. It might lock earlier on weekends, but that's how it works. And it's kind of like we're the only show in town. There's none of our competitors that have really cornered any of the market, and we have a lot of people playing now. We have like, last month we had 15,000 unique active players. This month I think we'll do about 20.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah,
That
on
makes
a
sense.
single night there's probably around like about 6.
Wow.
So
I mean, for shoes like that and for kids to do something and be a part of,
it's
the excitement of it and doing it, I think it's like a no-brainer for them.
I was just going to say that. Like, why, if I had this in high school, I'd be like, you're telling me I have to put up no money. It takes me 10 seconds to do. By the way, you don't even have to download an app. We do it on a web
Really?
app. So if you see this link on Instagram, you don't have to leave the app, which is nice because I think I speak for everyone when I say, like, I hate downloading apps. I hate when companies make me do that.
Agreed.
So you just verify your phone number on the web app and you play. It takes 10 seconds. If I had this in high school, I'd do it every single day.
Yeah, especially, kids that, I feel like when I was in high school, I absolutely, loved sneakers but could never afford them. Because you're in high school, you don't have any money.
Just think
Yeah.
about like in high school or in middle school, like the hot thing was always like the big game that you're playing. And so like that's kind of, I feel like there's untapped potential there because like as the momentum builds and friends start to tell their friends, it's like the Call of Duty or like the Doodle Jump or the Clash of Clans, and it's like, yo, get on here.
Yeah,
Get some
and now you
shoes.
can win something.
Because I've seen
That's huge.
I've seen your story posts with the shoes and everything, but I didn't put together that was like your thing, that you were like your actual like business.
Yeah, so we've tested it for a long time, but we've really only had it in this iteration since the middle of January. So we're not even that far into it.
Still new.
Still very new. And that growth model you just talked about, we do have something like that. So
Yeah.
we have like, let's say you get bad cards, because the way the game works is you get dealt 5 random players from the NBA. Now, all of our cards would be different because there's maybe 100 guys playing. Imagine a deck where you get dealt cards. That's actually how the game looks too. you get bad cards, you send them back to the deck. It feels like a redeal. We call it a swap. So when you start, you get 3 swaps. You can only use 1 a day, and you're going to run out after 3 days. Now, you have to refer your friend to get 3 more. So people do this. There's like a unique link you copy on there. You send it to your buddies. Once they play, 3 more swaps. So
That's sweet.
Yeah, it's cool because like, it's not a big ask. Like your buddy will probably want to play anyway.
100%.
Yeah.
It's all it is a phone number. You're good to go.
Yeah.
And you can just hop right in and play. Do you see yourself expanding in this realm to like different things where it's now instead of like shoes, it's a car?
Yeah. So we're gonna have. I'm hoping by the NBA Finals we can have at least a debut or a test of this new game we're releasing. But my goal for this new game is to get to that level where we're giving away cars. Like I want to give away new cars. And it sounds crazy, but it's not. Like that's what I'm saying at the beginning. Like I'm very in tune with the business side of things. Giving away a car for a company like Ford. Like what if they were to give away a Ford Bronco? They're not actually spending that much money on a Bronco.
Right.
No.
And $20,000 is a drop in their advertising budget.
Mm-hmm.
So to be like the presenting sponsor and to do the prize giveaway, it sounds nuts like the average person, but if we have 50,000 people playing a night by that point, I think it's an amazing deal.
100% for them. I mean,
It's
and
insane.
they're now connected into the younger audience, versus like a kid will turn on the TV and watch a Ford ad and they're like, all right. But now it's connected into your game.
Yeah, exactly.
Now they can win a Ford Bronco. By the time they turn 16, they can drive that sucker. They're a Ford
I
fan
want to win
for
that
life.
Bronco.
Right. You even around the holidays, you did a unique kind of collaboration, right? Where you hid a ticket inside of Acrisure Stadium
Yeah, that was with Cullen.
with Colin. What's his
Yeah.
Instagram again? All
Hail B-Ball.
Hail B-Ball.
It's good stuff.
Yeah,
another
that
big
was
Pittsburgh creator.
that was awesome. Cullen is such a beast. That was so much fun. We hid the Travis Scott ticket. We didn't actually hide the shoes. We hid like Willy Wonka style, like a letter that had a golden ticket in there, and it was like we made these videos promoting that it was going to be hidden inside Acrisure on this time at this date. And I got there and I was like, I'll just be the first one inside, and I'll watch all these kids look for it. The line to get in the stadium at 11. The game's not till 1. The line to get in the stadium is so long. And it's not just people. Like, I didn't realize. I'd never gone into a Steeler game that early. I didn't realize that all of these Yinzers are waiting in line, plus all the people that just want the shoes are waiting in line. The line was super long. I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to have to skip this line so I can get in there and watch. So I, like, kind of weaseled my way in there. But I put my hood up. I stood in the corner and just watched so many, like, 10 through 25-year-olds. Like, some people were, like, not kids. And digging around Acrisure's concourse, like, going to Permanis and, like, opening up their drawers. Like, I saw some crazy stuff. Like, they were going so hard for this ticket. But the shoes are expensive, man. They're, like, $1,500 shoes.
Yeah.
Easy.
So, yeah. So, it was, like, it was an amazing activation, but it's not really sustainable.
Right.
We wanted to do this, like, every single week. First of all, it's expensive.
Yeah.
If you don't have it sponsored, which we didn't, really expensive and tough to pull off because you have to be boots on the ground, traveling every single week, promoting every single week, dropping hints. Like, it's a tough thing to actually promote. If we wanted to continue that, we'd have to have like some funding to back us. It's just too much.
Right. It's a lot of.
It went so well though. I wish we could do it.
There was so much like hype about it just on social media, and then we were even there like for pregame and stuff. Me, Mikey, and Alex, and we're like, man, we should go up there and like look around. And we're like, nah.
Try to find the ticket.
I was like, I bet you somebody already knows where it is. Like, but
We'll get this. I'm sorry to interrupt.
no, you're good.
The people working inside
That's
the
what
stadium.
I was like. I bet you there's people.
Oh,
working.
they also were trying to
we
find
didn't-
them.
Yeah, we
That's
didn't
great.
realize that they were going to be like in on this. So they're like, well, we're the first ones in. Like,
We got first crack at it.
yeah, we got first crack at it. So we had to go in and like secretly move it.
Oh, because did somebody know? I'm sure probably word spread about it.
Well, the first place we put it at, we hit it like weeks before at a pit game. And it must have slipped through a crack or something like that. I still don't know what happened, but we had a guy working there say like, hey, I work here. It's not there. and he knew the exact spot somehow. And we're like,
What were your thoughts
I was
whenever
like-
you
I
heard
was like,
that?
maybe it got blew away in the wind or it slipped through a crack, but like we got to go in and rehide. So we did another spot, and then we got word that people inside the stadium were like trying to sneak, like the custodians basically, or like the people who work for Permanis, like they were trying to get their hands on it. So we had to rehide it. And I just told everyone to follow my IG story for updates. Like, okay, here's the new hint. It was
That
a
is a
true,
lot- that's a
it was
lot
a
of
true
work.
scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
a
lot
lot
of
of moving pieces you have to consider, and
I did not consider the inside job. That was crazy to me.
I didn't think about that either until because like there is like on game days there's so many people in there like before the gates as far as like restaurant employees and security people, and a lot of them are younger and probably some of them follow you, so it's like yeah, figuring out all that's tough. Figuring out the legal part on your end is probably was a lot of work, but such a sick idea. So hopefully there's more iterations down the road to some degree.
I agree. Like it was undoubtedly a success. Like I made this LinkedIn post and I posted all the stats from it because I was trying to bring a sponsor on. It crushed, man. We reached millions of people, and I saw them with my eyes too. Like it's one thing as a creator to be like, I got 1 million views. Okay, well I didn't see any of these people. It's another thing to be like, oh, this promotion got 200,000 views, and I see hundreds of people who actually converted, losing their mind, digging around for something. It's like, okay, this is real. That's a moment where you're like, that's how like comedians must feel when they're like, I'm selling out a show. Even if it's a small show, man, like you get 300 people in there. That's awesome.
And you have that following, and people are laughing at you. Like, it's got to be the best feeling in the world, too. I mean, and you get to see the people that are interacting with your videos in person, like, looking for the ticket. That's got to be just so cool.
Like, we talked about creating community earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why it's so hard for these creators to have longevity. Like, they don't actually get to go on tour like a comedian would and, like, develop this core cult following. Like, you're kind of just in your home.
Right.
At least if you play the game like me.
Right.
That's why I have these other businesses going on.
You gotta
figure
spread
it out.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
cool.
was there people involved with the Steelers organization or anybody inside the stadium that like knew about this that was going on prior to?
No. I tried to get in touch with the Steelers, and they said that their response, I love the Steelers, and like this doesn't change anything. But their response was like, we cannot hide foreign objects or something. It was like some like really legal reply. I was like, what do you think, I have a bomb in here or something like this? It's just a little golden ticket. So I don't know. It's tough for them, and they're focused on winning the game, so it's all right.
Maybe PNC Park next. with the
Yeah,
Pirates.
maybe. I would definitely do it again, man. I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have to learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
Get some funding.
Right. Get some people to back it and everything like that.
What would you say has been the most surprising part of your journey so far? Unexpected.
Unexpected. I don't know, man. Can I sit on that one for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like it's something new every day probably for you too.
There's probably so many things that have occurred in the last like 5 or 6 years. You're just like those wow moments where you're like, wow, like.
Oh, I'll give you. This was unexpected, like just because it was surprising, but I did expect this would happen eventually. When I first started out, it was still during COVID, and my dad and my 2 brothers all went out to Phoenix, like Scottsdale area, to play some golf. I think I was living in LA at the time. I had to have been. So we get out there, having a good time. No one's ever stopped me being like, "Are you Frank Smith?" Like, it just never happened. And I, I'm not wearing my hoodie. Like, I'm not in like costume all the time.
Geared
so
up.
It doesn't. Yeah, I was like, you know what? That's probably just not something that's gonna happen to me. Like, whatever. That's fine. Like, I'm doing well. I'm happy. And I'm standing up because I'm just getting tight after this round of golf, having a beer after the round, and this guy taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to tell me, because it's so weird during COVID, he's going to tell me to like strap my mask on because I just stood up to stretch, because that was the rule at the time,
Yeah.
right? If you're at the table, you're good. If you're out, you're not.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Mask
this guy's
up.
really, I'm 5 inches from the table. Is he really about to tell me this right now? And he's like, are you Frank Michael Smith?
In Phoenix, Arizona. That's
yeah,
awesome.
and he was like not my demographic. He's like, 30 years old, and I was like, yeah, and he was like, you're not, and I was like, I promise you, and he was like, he ID'd me. He was like, let me see your ID.
That's so cool. That's
It
awesome.
was in front of my dad and my brothers. It was such a cool moment.
You're like, Dad, it's working.
I'll never forget that. Yeah,
That's
that
really
was
cool.
that was surprising, but I did think eventually things like that would happen, and they do usually when I go to games is when that happens. But at the time, really surprising.
That's a surreal moment
Yeah.
when somebody recognizes you from a video you made or something like that. I mean, it's got to be awesome. What do you think about the Masters? You brought up golf. Who's the favorite now? I mean, today's Saturday. We got the cuts. Tiger made the cut. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I put a bet on Bryson.
Before the tournament started?
After his like first 3 holes. He was like 3 under through 3, and I was like, he's hot right now. So I put a bet on him. He stayed hot. I think he finished 6 under, and now he's at like 7.
Mm-hmm.
So Scotty's so good. He's tied. Homa's tied. It's hard to say like Bryson's gonna win because Scotty is so good right now. But
he's unbelievable. Scotty's just so consistent.
if
too.
I had to actually bet like without odds, I'd probably say Scotty. But I like Bryson's odds still.
Yeah. He
Just a
crushes the
dog.
ball. He absolutely annihilates the ball.
Yeah, he's a little
It's
scary.
He ripped the
insane.
sign out of the ground yesterday.
Did
I
you
saw
see
that, and he was
He's,
carrying
like,
it.
carrying it around.
The guy's
That
a
was
beast.
crazy.
Yeah. Why did he do that in the
I
first
think it
place?
was like in the way of
Yeah.
the shot, so he's like, I'll just move it over here for a second.
And he
hurt
still made
himself,
birdie.
too.
They made him put it back.
Really?
He still made birdie. Yeah.
That is hysterical.
Just an animal.
Was that the one when he hit it into the woods and he went like the opposite way of where the fairway was and like hit around it? Because I saw them
didn't
talking
see
about it
what
today.
the shot was. I just saw the picture after, and I was like, is this dude really walking around with this on his shoulder? And he was.
Yeah, they had to have a meeting, and he put it back in the ground, and he still made birdie, so it didn't matter.
That's how you know you're balling. You're
It was
feeling
a great like social media moment though.
Yeah.
He got to carry this thing. Like
That's
people were
such a
putting
great
like
picture.
him carrying the sign because the sign has like crossing signs on it. It's like him and you know that guy on Twitter like art but make it sports.
Oh, yeah.
He had like Jesus Christ carrying the cross.
crazy.
People on social media, man, I swear, are like could be comedians with some of the shit that they post. You're just like, man, where do you come
some
up
of the
with
meme
that?
accounts out there, like you just like how they even think of that.
Well, that goes back
So
to what
fast.
you were saying. Like having your finger on the pulse,
Mm-hmm.
that's their skill. That's really their skill. Like, yeah, like they're gonna find these images, but that's after you know what you're gonna do. That's a Google search. So
Yeah.
it's really just about understanding culture.
That's the big thing, understanding culture. And yeah, those meme accounts, I mean, there's so many, and you see it on TikTok too with like the repurposing of content. Do you deal with people
Drives me nuts.
just stealing your stuff and
Well,
reposting?
it's not like I'm expecting like better from these platforms. Like they're just how are they possibly going to control that? I don't know.
No, you can't.
I don't think that they can, so I'm not like mad at them, but there has to be some sort of repercussion where it's like I dealt with this many times in my career at this point where why would it be cool for you to just repost my video without asking me? It's like, oh, well, we tagged you. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't
like-
say yes.
Right.
So why would you think that's just automatically cool? Maybe I didn't want to have it there. You know? And it's not like this is a make or break situation for my career, but it's like sometimes it sucks because what if I had something that really went off and they did a dead link, which has happened many times. It's like, no, we tagged you. You put a dead link to my website or you put a dead link to my Twitter on Instagram. You didn't tag me. You know, It's like you're stealing stuff. And at that point, you can't call yourself a creator.
If you're just reposting your videos,
You can't
and just
call yourself
leaving
a
it
creator.
there.
Yeah, you're a thief, basically.
Right.
You're just not creative enough to do it yourself, so you're out there stealing other people's stuff. That's what
Yeah.
it comes down to. You're lazy and you're not creative.
Has any of the social media platforms tried to do anything to like stop that? I mean, is it like an algorithm based thing where
I think YouTube has something, because it doesn't really happen on YouTube. I think they have some sort of matching solution, almost the same way you'd like use Shazam to like match a song. I think they have something like that, so
Makes
they're pretty
sense.
good at it. But no, like Instagram, like there's no rules.
yeah, they could probably care less as long as there's more videos getting posted up into the algorithm for them.
I think
they're probably like, sure.
I don't know if I wouldn't say they could care less, but
Yeah.
it's just, why would that ever be a priority? They have so many problems.
Right.
It's on the low end of the totem pole, I'm
Mhm.
sure. And two, there's also like the argument where it's like there are some scenarios where stuff gets borrowed from other creators, and it's like you don't want to implement like a blanket solution to where like anytime something that's been posted before gets taken down, and then it's like you just killed a bunch of accounts that way. But there also needs to be like a social media etiquette class or something taught, because there's so many people that are completely like unaware of like copyright, and just like it's a shitty thing
Well,
to do.
the way they
you know
wrote
what I
the
mean?
rules
like,
is very ambiguous. Like, we all use fair use.
right.
We all do. But fair use is like intentionally gray. So it's
It
not-
gets that way
yeah.
with music too. It's like with using music for backdrops to your song, because now like certain accounts on Instagram, you have the catalog of music, and it's like, well, if Instagram's letting me use this song, it's good. But if you're like a major brand and you use that, you're still under some big liability potentially. So it's like, as an artist, are you cool with like a major brand using your song, or like a major content creator using your song?
Well, they've created rules for that, like YouTube specifically. Like when they created the Shorts Fund, or I don't even know if it was technically the Shorts Fund. Whenever they started paying for shorts, I think they just might have merged it into their partner program. But you don't get 50%, you get less, and part of the reason is because they have to pay for these song royalties, so they cover it for you.
Gotcha.
So there's stuff like this with the music has been kind of worked in there. And again, YouTube is the best at it. Like, if you make a long form YouTube video and you have even like 10 seconds of a song in there, they're taking all your ad revenue and they're giving it to the publisher.
Yeah,
It's
they're on
gone.
top of it. 'Cause
Yeah, they're good at it.
I listened to
Even
Rogan.
our last episode with Mark is like a local Pittsburgh artist. We put like the clip of his song at the beginning, and it's right at the bottom. It's like, so and so publishing owns the rights to this song, blah blah blah. They can run ads or whatever. And I was
Yeah,
like,
they
how'd
send all
even
the money
find
right
that?
to them.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. They're
crazy.
really good at it.
It's insane how that works.
You would
but,
almost, if you were an artist, you'd probably almost want people to play your music on YouTube then at that point, because then it gets just funneled right to you.
I think nowadays, yeah. Like, think about how many TikTok songs went viral and you've never heard of that artist until then. But then it's also like a slippery slope, because it's like, say this big brand uses it, well, you want to get your bag too, you know?
Yeah.
If they're using my song. So it's
intellectual
a whole mess.
property. It's a gray. It's like
Right.
definitely a interesting gray area.
What kind of things do you do to stay motivated, stay on course?
Work on things I care about. Hire people and have them work on the things that not that I don't care about, but things that I don't think I can advance the company creatively and professionally. You eventually have to take your hands off things. Like for Snapchat, I have a guy, Mason, he's a beast. He handles all the ins and outs of our Snapchat portfolio. So there's 25 shows we have. He's in charge of talking to these people, getting the shows up, coordinating the editors. I don't have time to do that. I wouldn't be able to do things like 5-card draw if I was spending all my time thinking about that. I used to do it, but eventually you have to take your hands off. So I think you have to be an entrepreneur about it.
Can't be a one-man show.
What's your favorite part of the creation process then? In
Writing.
what you do, writing out the stories.
Filming's terrible. I hate filming.
Really?
Yeah. It doesn't feel like this. Filming when you're by yourself, it's like a choppy process. Like you're stuttering over words. And I mean, even when I first started, it was LA. It was hot and I would wear a sweatshirt every video. So, sometimes you're sweating and you have to like wipe yourself off. It was like by far the least fun because you've done all the work. You've wrote all this stuff. You've thought about it creatively. Now the performance of it, it's not like, okay, I'm gonna have this performance-based art where we talked about stand-up comedy. You have this reaction from the crowd that you're giving and getting back and forth. It's this like relationship. No, it's just you and the camera, and you're stuttering. And if you're in LA, you're sweating. I was in the Valley, so I was in.
That's another ball game.
At the time when I started, man. I was living in Chatsworth, which is way up in the Valley, and yeah, that part's no fun. The writing part is cool.
How do you go about the writing process then? Do you have a specific layout that you cater your videos to? Because from just looking at Instagram, it seems like it. But in terms of creating, how do you write?
A lot of this stuff's in the course if you really want to go into detail. But like in short, I know I need to have a hook that's strong. You can't say things weak. You can be like, I think this, or I think you're like, no, this is this, that's that. This is my opinion. And using simple language is definitely better. I don't use a bunch of big fancy words. Like I know fancy words too, but like
doesn't stick. That's
not going to reach people.
Right.
So I try to be very explicit about what I'm saying, and it's almost like the same thing you'd have in a movie script, but condensed into 1 minute. You have your hook, you set up your context, you introduce the character. Okay, here's the conflict. And then once you get to that climax and resolution, cut the video. It's got to be done. Like,
no fat.
No one is going to stick around after that. You got to end the video there. So, end strong. I'm Fred Michael Smith, and that's my take. Boom, done.
Boom.
Money in the bank.
Yeah.
It's a good way to close out the episode.
I like it.
We're at 12:59 already. Crazy.
We appreciate it, man.
That flew by.
Yeah.
I know, right? We were getting deep in there in the conversation. But we appreciate you coming out and dropping some wisdom on us. We will plug all your socials and everything in the description. And, thanks for coming out.
Anything you want to plug before we get off here? How do fans get on the 5-card draw or anything that they can follow?
5card.co.
Okay.
Join my broadcast channel.
All
I
right.
post it in there so you don't even have to think about it every day. Join the broadcast channel on IG, 5card.co, Rhino Gang.
I'm about to go play.
Yeah,
Me too.
You should.